Hello everybody, I'm Mango Thunderslice, and today's video is Run. How to conquer obstacles when the light seems dimmest and all seems lost, right? Victory is near, as the subtitle. And just gonna, talk about a little bit about what's going on still with the election situation, talk about what it means to me and what I think in general, objectively, it means to be an American, and what the heroic aspect of the human soul that gets, relegated to this fable and illusion in the mind of materialists, of those, the postmodernists who believe that everything is just purely a construction. But even if everything is purely a construction, there's still no denying the divergent results in the actors of this world. There's no denying that there are heroes and that there are villains, right? There are weak people and there are strong people, and the world that we live in is just one monolithic testament to the power of the strong, and basically, our history is replete with lessons about the tyranny of the weak and all the different aspects of how things can be good, how things can be derailed, and what exactly are the underpinning metaphysical values that keep the whole game running forward, right? Beyond the circus, there is the circus master and the ringleader, and there's the rules of the circus. There's the, science of attention. There's the designer of the games. There's the animals and the acrobats and everybody whose job it is to continue that attention, grabbing employ, and that basically entertainment, right? And entertainment and entrainment are very similar, right? It is basically the tracking of the attention into a groove, and the energy basically moves within that groove. And so essentially what we focus on ends up having a very, very huge role in the results that we achieve in our lives. And now again, people try and find what, they try and start off by trying to find an objective meaning system, right? And that's why they look to science, because especially in the frame in which they're introduced, everything is evaluated as a sort of, mathematical claim. It's just, is this true? What is the proof? And, this is the mindset of the left brain dominant person of basically evaluating everything ad infinitum. And I definitely am one of those people. I've balanced myself out a little bit, but it was hard for me to appreciate anything. It was hard for me to see any sort of immaterial values, in a sense, because I couldn't actually turn my brain off and just see the sort of relative, image value of the right brain. And so basically it's only when combining both hemispheres of the brain that we start to approach the truth and the accurate interpretation of our senses. You can get locked in one and locked in the other, and ultimately, as I've noted, that is the goal of the propaganda. It is the goal of the poisoning and the pharmaceuticals and the terrible food and the poisoned water with the chemicals. It is all to basically imbalance you, and physically to imbalance you, and psychologically to imbalance you inside of your own brain. And, the hero, one of the aspects of the hero is balance. It is basically the full engagement of that left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right, until the circulation becomes a unity, right? The two become one because they are in motion. And just like, the codon today is run. And, run, you can physically run with your feet. You can sort of run for office, right? A program can be running. Running implies just operation. Right? We run a company, right? You are the one who is in charge of the operations of that company. So when we run, both physically, it activates the entire biological system. We also, once we have the biological system activated, we can run many things. We can run organizations. We can run, ships, right? I'm sort of this car is running of its own accord, the machine, but I am also running the car, which we call driving. And, it is, if I were to cease to function, if I were to just close my eyes or turn off my brain, or just, be like a Tesla driver and just leave it on autopilot and take a nap, then basically the car would quickly crash, right? Whether or not it has the autopilot from Tesla, as of course we see many videos on the internet of the thing not exactly working as it's intended just quite yet. But in any case, even when there is automatic, world and all these physical aspects of transportation are fully automated, we will still be needed to run things that are basically beyond the capacity of the AI. There are things that are beyond the capacity of the AI. The materialist will scoff at that claim. What? There's nothing. We're just basically mathematical computer, and so the AI is a better computer than we will ever be. So therefore, the AI is superior to the human, and our best hope is to just merge ourselves with the AI and technology and become transhumanist cyborgs. And they're talking about the Great Reset now. They're literally marketing it to you at the same time that they're calling you a conspiracy theorist for reacting to it in real time. Again, very extraordinary moment in history, but fundamentally not that much different from many other inflection points throughout history. And it's important to recognize that, again, this is a cosmic struggle. And if we want to achieve a better result, we should focus on the underlying cosmic principles of the matter and seize the day and take victory from the jaws of defeat in every single outcome. And that is what I mean when I say that when I appreciate and support Trump, for example, as a politician, people will jump to, you're just worshiping him as your savior. You're not, basically, you're not doing anything now. You're just worshiping the state and this personality. It's like, no, I'm not. I'm appreciating his strength of personality that casts off the shackles of media servile, basically just victimhood in debentures of basically people who can't even function, who can't even think a single coherent thought without it being prescripted by Rachel Madcow or any of the other, mental lemmings, the producers and the programmers. Right? It is absolutely insane that anybody could actually watch these programs at this point. But again, it's a whole series of decades of entrainment, of entertainment, of basically putting one in that groove of abject materialism, of there's no arc of greater meaning except for the materialist socialist ideal. And so basically the best you can do is just cheer for the NHS and cheer for your false heroes who are actually poisoning you and are mind controlling you and basically psychologically torturing you day in and day out, right? When people vote against Trump, because nobody really voted for Biden, I guess some people did, the ones that are really heavy in the matrix, but the majority of people who voted against Trump did so because they are tired of being psychologically tortured. They still believe, they still have that Stockholm syndrome and that battered wife syndrome where they, appreciate and need the media, even though it's been clear for years and years that the media has no interest in their welfare, well-being, in telling them the truth, or basically exposing them to information that may, benefit or harm them. Their sole function is to create and establish the narrative of mediocrity, of subjugation, of surrender and control. And that is exactly what we reject when we turn that idiot box off and turn on new forms of media. And again, there's a time for no media rather than new media. It's just turn it off entirely. Put your bare feet on bare earth. Go and look at the stars. Look at the sky. Go and watch the clouds for a few hours, right? It's just if functioning becomes too much and too intense for you, it is important that you do what you need to rest and relax. Because if you don't relax and if you don't rest and repair, then there is no running. Right? Running is a function of balance with inactivity, which is just activity on a higher level, a different level. We don't cease to function when we go to sleep. We just cease to function in terms of physical body movement. We continue to function in the dream world, in the spiritual world, in the etheric, the astral realm, and many different names for it, but ultimately all these immaterial realms that we can access both when we are sleeping, through dreams and lucid dreams especially, but also through altered states, which some can be because of entheogens, certain herbs or mushrooms. Others can do it through yoga and just through breathing practices. But the point is that there's many different paths to the top of the mountain. There's no denying that the top of the mountain does exist. Even if you've never seen it, you can't deny that it exists. I mean, people do. That's the materialist position. That is the atheist position. I've never seen it, therefore it doesn't exist. oh wow, you're a fucking genius. Wow, golf clap for that. Basically, it's funny, the pinnacle of intelligence that these atheists perceive themselves to be, and they're really just midwits, basically just buying the prime lies and craven, deceptive narratives that the academic world and the media has fostered on them. It's in that they are helpless, they are just material beings, they're just meat sacks, and basically they're corralled like a herd. And basically, again, the socialist thinks that, feels that, and enjoys that, and wants to basically promote that as the objective truth. And then just to make everyone physically equal by means of state distribution, aka socialism, right? And some of them, especially the ones that propagated in Hollywood, they envision themselves to be on a higher level. And basically, again, even when in the Soviet system, there was the Politburo and the people who were connected to the state, and thus were able to exert lots of favors, right? And not so much even the people in those positions, but also their family members could leverage that. And it's funny because that's literally what we have already with the Biden family, is basically, and not just them, of course, but they were just such a perfect example of just a whole family of just degenerates, of just grifters, and just using that position of public servitude, right, quote unquote, sick joke, and basically grifting off the system, selling out the country, in ways that are rise to the level of treason. I think that any reasonable person would agree that when you sell out this country to its principal military opponent, at least in the long term, which is China, that basically is very concerning, more so than just, he wanted to get some extra cash while they were overthrowing Ukraine, through the Burisma connection and whatnot. It is, Ukraine doesn't pose a nuclear military threat to the United States. And again, I'm not trying to hype, new Cold War with China. I just believe that for all the hype that's spewed about Russia, there are actually legitimate grievances with China, and the idea that Russia is this big boogeyman that we all need to be concerned about is a total joke. Russia is like a relatively very small country, and honestly, culturally, I probably think we should emulate more things than we should castigate. And the fact that they have decentralized farming, the fact that they've retained a strong position for morality in society, I think that I'm not saying that I would move to Russia. I can't live in any place where the sun doesn't go down. I think that would just completely mess with me. But the point is that there's no real threat from Russia, whereas from China, they really do see, they have a chip on their shoulder the size of Tanzania, and it's because of centuries of legitimate grievances from subjugation by the British East India Company and the Opium Wars, and basically they had a whole long period of mediocrity and low-level activity because primarily of the actions of Western colonial powers. And again, it's not like the East is free of their own sins. They're all guilty on a certain level, right? The Japanese did things worse than the Germans in World War II, but nobody ever found out about it because we never actually invaded the mainland. I mean, basically they just cleaned it all up by the time the equivalent scrutiny came through, and thus nobody really knows about it, but it happened. They can be as crazy and messed up psychologically as we can, and right, it's not just all this group or this group or that group. It's a functional deficiency in the human soul caused by a chain link of trauma, that causality chain down through the ages. And what the true religion is rectifying that, is reconciling those gaps, and of reinstituting the whole fractal paradigmatic image onto the drive, right? Of reformatting the drive with the original balanced operating system. And that takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of energy. It requires running. It requires running for a long time. It requires running knowing that you won't necessarily see the end at any given point. You will only see the horizon, and you will just keep running. And that is the nature of, the warrior. That is the nature, and that's, why, I think that we look up to athletes, because they are the modern incarnation of the warrior. Well, at least they were for our parents' generation, but, now I think the warrior is kind of now in a psychic sense. Because that's where the new battles are fought. The battle you should have, and you must have full command of your physical body, but psychic warfare is exactly the name of the game that is being played. It has been for some time, but if I'm tuned into anything that the rest of the internet, could learn a thing or two about, it's about taking on that warrior aspect in the face of all of this evil and propaganda, and to stop just whining and to just say, it's all conspiracy, man. So what? It's always been a conspiracy. That doesn't mean that you don't exist. That doesn't mean that you have no power. It doesn't mean that we're helpless. It just means that they're trying to control us. But, I can't remember who said it, but the point is true, that if the situation were helpless, their propaganda would be unnecessary. They could just take the mask off and brutally rule over us, but they don't have it yet. They're reaching for it, and that is this whole socialist push, but they will not get it. It's just going to be denied from them. Or if they touch it, it's only going to be for a very fleeting moment, and then basically it's all going to come crashing down. So even if they succeed in stealing this election and having an asterisk presidency, then it's just going to accelerate that timeline that much further. They are going to go for broke because they now understand the magnitude of the forces that are arrayed against them, which is the awakening. Right? There's been much said and much ado about all of the Great Reset and all of the designs and schemes of the controllers, and the Agenda 2030 and the New World Order and all this stuff, but not much has been made ado about the awakening in a big sense. Maybe some of the yogis have waxed poetic about it for some time, but I think that there's a very real aspect of integration with our culture and reality in this digital age, and that's what we're seeing, and that's why this has taken on a spiritual aspect more so than just a typical political conflict. And rather than the right and the left, it is now, as I've said, the light and the reft, of those who are basically in a material orc state, who just will reave and bereave and punish and beat and scrape and kill. They are the aspect of lead. They are the Saturnalian cult, and basically the minions of the Saturnalian cult. And then there's those who are of the light, who resonate with gold, who are aspects of the sun, and who move in that fractal resonating current that is the creator of the universe, and the will of God, which is all of the flow, the unified flow of etheric fields throughout the entire universe, right? Everything moves together. Everything exists in cognizance in relation to another, point, and that is all reconciled in the mind of God. And even if we don't always get what we want, you see, we get what we need, especially if we take the action and, we run toward what we need, and we run away from things that basically should be run away from, like the television media programming, like toxic people that cannot be saved. It is important to separate as much as is needed to achieve your own development and, embryonic growth into the superhuman, because that is really what is happening, regardless of the transhumanist objectives of the globalists and Klaus Schwab and the Davos crowd, as they say. There is an absolute quantum leap occurring, and that is just in response to the information finally being filtered through a balanced, actor and resonator, and people actually realizing that there's more to the material frame. And when we actually light up that circuit and that system, it's there's no way to control the realm in any meaningful sense from a tyrant's point of view. It becomes functionally impossible, and the best you can do is just try and guide them in a rosy illusion and keep them, in a sort of self-willed sleep. You cannot wake someone who is pretending to be asleep. Remember that. There are people who are, halfway awakened and pretending to be asleep because it's comfy to them. And that is the illusion, that is the video game mentality, the fantasy that has infected many of my generation. But it is important that we play this real video game of life and keep it rolling, keep it running in our own particular domain. Because, again, regardless of whether, Trump succeeds in this judicial and constitutional challenge to the election fraud, or, it ultimately goes to Team Biden and, we basically just face gridlock for the next few years. In any case, we have everything we need to move forward with the plan right now. And I'm not talking about any plan that's necessarily been spoken of by QAnon or any other. I'm talking about the plan of the great work of building out paradise on this planet and fulfilling our own self-actualization on a mass scale, and actually becoming those superhumans, right? Those cells of God, becoming the God of ourselves and the cells of God, and fulfilling that will in every single sphere that we inhabit, which, starts to increase massively. And we will reach out to the stars, we will go to the moons of Jupiter and Saturn, and hopefully we bring with us a constructive and symbiotic culture rather than a culture of parasitism, which has unfortunately been a large part of this past Piscean era. But, again, it is all coming around as it always does. And if you can ride the wave, you will go anywhere you want, brother. You will go wherever you want and wherever you need. But if you fail to paddle out, and if you basically just wait for things to happen and submit yourself, and you don't run and you don't operate and you just flop, right, then you will get whatever, random chance or the illusion thereof, has to determine for you. And that's, true no matter where you are in age, political spectrum, or activation of the psychic identity. It is basically, again, these metaphysical truths. You can't necessarily put a quantity on them, like with, the melting point of ice at a certain temperature, a certain atmospheric pressure, but, it is nevertheless a real ratio and a real physical, metaphysical domain and realm. And so, the point is, when you are active on that realm, all the physical circumstances will essentially fold themselves into your favor, because you basically can manipulate your own position and relation to them in real time, and that is, again, what it means to run. And, when you actually get into running physically and you feel your body just pushing itself and you feel your heart pumping, you realize how everything relies on everything else within that system. And that when the strain and the stress is built, basically, and everything starts to just work in a sort of cycle, and you feel the rhythm of your breath, you start to get into it. It starts to, again, there's a runner's high, and you feel the whole world just rushing past you, and you know that your entire movement is just from your own will and your own drive forward. And then you put, food into your body, and you feel it basically go in to repair the structures in the body. And this is, again, why I don't run as much as I used to, because I feel like my life is just a marathon every day now, with 2 little ones at home and everything that is going on. But it is, I will return to running. It is a very important thing, and it does help calm a person down, especially in a high anxiety, stressful state. If you can just induce a sort of physical stress, it makes all the other stresses seem just kind of very easy to bear by comparison. And so, again, cultivating that strength and building that presence in the world, so that you are not that weak little whining, pissant, drain on the system, but you are just a resonator and a wellspring of psychic force and of action and of constructive just achievement. And, again, sometimes that involves destroying some things, but, that's what we call bonus round. In any case, hope you guys have a good one, and I will see you next time. Peace.